welcome to my Bookmas weekly wrap-up. I've been reading some really wonderful books this December as I make my way through my book advent. First book I read was A Child's Christmas in Wales by Dylan Thomas. This was a wonderful one to start off December with. It just set for a really nostalgic tone, and Thomas's descriptions of wintry moments with, family traditions just reminds you of the simple joys of the season. I listened to this one and I'd never heard his voice before. Wow, what a resounding presence he has. Much like all his work, you can really feel the love and warmth that he had for Wales and the people and memories from his boyhood. It's all wrapped up in his lyrical brilliance, and I really recommend this one. Then I read this lovely collection, What the Heart Knows, Chants, Charms, and Blessings by Joyce Sidman. Marked some of my favorite illustrations by Pamela Zagorensky. And this is just a lovely collection of inspirational poems that one might draw upon in, time of need, such as broken friendships or insomnia, which, we all can. I'm sure we all have been struggling with getting sleep these days, with the state of the world. But I loved reading her little poems, and they all were inspired by the power that words have. Especially our ancient forms of the spoken word, such as songs and invocations. And I do have a chant myself. It's a song by Taj Mahal and Kebmo called All Around the World, and I've been singing it a lot lately. And I do believe in the power of words. Yeah, and in the same vein, I also read Glory 2 by one of my favorite poets, Nikki Grimes. Book is a more spiritual collection of her poems, and it takes you on a reflective journey through all the months, or not all the months, but all the seasons of the year. And one of the opening poems for the winter section is called Word, and this was probably my most favorite poem of the collection. And I will there's a lovely clip of her reading this poem, which I'll leave linked down below. I really love Nikki Grimes's poetry. Next book I read was Tuck Everlasting by Natalie Babbitt. And this is a story that I was familiar with because I grew up watching the film, and so I already knew what the twist was, and I don't want to spoil it for those of you who haven't read it or seen the film. But it's about a really sheltered and discontented 10-year-old girl who comes across a very mysterious family in the woods near her home, and she learns about the surrounding forest and some important life lessons when she uncovers this family's secret. This is a very philosophical story about mortality and metamorphosis, about greed and morality. Ultimately, it asks some profound questions. And that being said, there were some parts of the book that were changed for the film adaptation, and I think this is one of the few instances where I prefer the film to the book. There were some details that I felt that the film did a better job at, such as the time she spends with the Tuck family is more drawn out, and you can it makes more sense that she would get attached to the Tuck family and understand their story better. Whereas in the book, she only spends a day with them, and she was just 10 years old in the book. Whereas in the film, I think she's like 16. But anyways, it's still a really profound little novella, and I'm glad I finally got a chance to read it. I also read this novella, Christmas at the Women's Hotel by Daniel M. Lavery. And this is a fun story about a cast of characters set in the 1960s at a residential women's hotel called the Bienmeyer. And I had to look up what a residential hotel was because I wasn't familiar with them. And I guess it was just a safe place for unmarried women to live, and as they develop their careers and so forth. And it's set in the 1960s in the lead up to Christmas. This reminded me a lot of Barbara Pym's humorous writing and nuanced characters. You feel like a fly on the wall as each chapter you get little snippets from various lodgers. You meet a recovering alcoholic who's trying to reconnect with her estranged younger sister who plans to attend college in the city. You meet Lucienne, who is making extra money on the side by starting a male escort service, and it's really fun and just very lighthearted. But yeah, some of the stories were left unresolved, but I think it's part of a series, and this is so I'm sure there will be some resolution in the next one. I also read Tum Tum and Nutmeg, A Christmas Adventure. It's part Brambly Hedge, part Borrowers, and it's about Tum Tum and Nutmeg, who are two mice who live in Rose Cottage with a family. And in the beginning you see these two human children writing their Christmas letters to Santa, and Santa hasn't visited in a couple years, and this pulls on Tum Tum and Nutmeg's heartstrings, and they go to great lengths to ensure that these children get their Christmas wishes. And this one would make for a great read aloud with young kids, as it's really cute and really humorous. The next book I listened to was The Hen Who Wished She Could Fly by Soon Mi Huang. This one was translated by Chi Young Kim. So much is packed into this little novella that is about Sprout, who is a confined and sickly hen who dreams of greener pastures. And this story reads like a fable. It's very bittersweet, and it explores themes of survival, life and death, and parenthood, and it's a bittersweet story. Last night I listened to one of Enid Blyton's stories from her Christmas Tales collection. The one I listened to was a really funny one about Santa Claus needing the help of some small children as he's trying to escape a policeman who thinks he's a burglar. And yeah, I'm gonna listen to some more stories tonight. I just listened to one because I wanted to read this new Hansel and Gretel adaptation by Stephen King that has, you know, the one and only Maurice Sendak's iconic beautiful illustrations. It's done in his signature pen and ink watercolor style. Reads a bit differently from the original, as King based his prose around illustrations that Maurice made back in the 90s. How beautiful this is. Yeah, back in the 90s, Sendak was responsible for the costume and set design for an opera production of this story. It still holds true to the original, but yeah, he made some changes based off of Sendak's illustrations. So there's new additions to it, which made for a really lovely story. And I think, yeah, I think it was really well done. I love this story because it's about courage and being resilient in the face of it all. So that is my reading for the first week of December. Let me know what you've been reading lately and if you've come across any favorites. And I will see you next time. Have a good one. Bye-bye.